then, so today we're going to have a look at how to answer exam questions, specifically looking at component 1 section A and in particular focusing on that Quality Street advertisement. So that if Quality Street comes up at any point during your exams, and it will only appear in component 1 section A, I sound like I've been running. I sound like I've done a marathon and I'm only upstairs. That's not good, is it? Anyway, so if Quality Street comes up, and it will only come up in component 1 section A, you guys will know how to answer the questions that you could be faced with. So what I've done is I've taken these questions from the sample assessment materials, or SAMs, which is something you might hear me talking about as we go through other videos. Anything that is teacher only or that is on the secure part of the exam board website, I'm not allowed to go through with you guys at all. If I did, I'd get into a lot of trouble. So the SAMs are something that you can access yourself, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can turn these questions into revision materials for you. And if you're the sort of person who likes practicing with practice answers, practice questions, I'm going to show you how you can do that here. So looking at the questions that we've got here then, question 1 is already based on Quality Street, so we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to change that in any way, shape or form. But question 2, we're going to change to explain how social context influences advertising. So as you can see, all I've done here is change magazines to advertising and then refer to Quality Street to support our points. Now you could do that same thing for any of the set text, and obviously you could change social context to cultural context, historical context. So just because you don't necessarily have access to a load of papers, although knowing you guys, you'll be able to find a way of getting them, this is something that you can do to help you with your revision. To B, we're going to change to compare the representation of women in Quality Street advert and this advert here. Okay, so you can just find yourself a random advertisement to compare to Quality Street. Now what I've done is I've taken what I would argue to be quite a difficult advert to show you how even if women are not in the advertisement, there are still things that you can comment on. Okay, so we're going to use those as we go through. The way you can use this video is you can pause at the question, write your answer and then compare. You can have a look at my answers and you can mark them, or you can watch it through and then have a go yourself. There's loads of ways you can use this one today, so hopefully it will be a lot of use for you guys. Question 1 then, explore how the advertisement for Quality Street uses the following elements of media language to create meanings: images, language, layout and design. Now this is the mark scheme here. It's split into 5 bands, okay? So it's basically a mark per band. That top level is not unachievable. It's not unachievable for any of you guys, okay? All you need to do is to give a detailed analysis of the use of media language in the set product, which means we need to focus on at least 2 or 3 examples in each of those steps. And we need to have a focus on the connotations and the intended meanings behind those connotations, okay? So let's take another look at them. For one of the things that differentiates the top band from all of the others is a single word, okay, and that's why it's not unachievable. So we go from minimal to basic to satisfactory to good to excellent, okay, so it's massively achievable for all of you. All right, so let's have a look at this again then. And in fact, let's pick out the keywords, because I always think that picking out the keywords in a question is useful. Here we're being asked to explore, so we're wanting, you know, our own thoughts and our own ideas, need multiple examples, and the focus is on how it creates meanings. Okay, now in terms of our images, obviously we've got the photo frame with Major Quality and Miss Sweetly, we've got the image of the man and the 2 women, and we've also got the images of the sweets to think about. When we're thinking of language, we've got the alliteration, But we've also got the family brand name, and we've also got those individual descriptions of the sweets. It's important to make you guys aware that in your exam, you will be able to read those descriptions of the sweets really, really clearly. Okay, they'll be printed so that you can read it. And in fact, they may even separate those into its own text box so you can actually read what's being said about the chocolates. And you could include that into language as well if you wish. And then layout and design, I'm not going to highlight anything on this because we're looking at the advertisement as a whole at this point. So here we go then. This is my example. The main image used within the advert is the male protagonist, sharing the chocolates with the women either side of him. The male is positioned in the centre of the frame to show that he's the main focus. He represents many men of the period and indicates the level of power that they had at the time. He's surrounded by women to show how enticing the chocolates are, and seems to imply that by buying the product, the demographic can also be as attractive as he is. The fact that the tin is positioned in the centre of the frame and the fact that the images of the chocolates are repeated helps to inform the demographic as well as encourage them to buy the product. So I've not written an awful lot here in order to get good marks, but what you can see that I've done is include those key terms all the way throughout, and for each example that I mention, the male in the centre of the frame and the tin positioned in the centre of the frame, I've then explained what it does. So we're getting that meaning throughout as well as picking out those key features. Now, if we were going to mark this, and this is me sort of self-assessing my work, I think I've definitely given a detailed analysis of the media language that we've got in here, okay? I've picked out 2 of the examples and I've gone into more detail about it using my key terms. And I also think that I have focused on the connotations of the media language as well. I could, if I needed to, include another example from here. So bring in Major Quality and Miss Sweetly. That might be a good idea to do if I've got the time. But it's a good start, okay? See what you guys think. All right, language then. And you guys are going to mark these 2 yourself, okay? I'm not going to self-assess these. These are going to be for you guys to use and to mark. The language used in the advertisement is designed to be persuasive for the audience. There are several instances of alliteration, such as delicious dilemma and delightfully different. These are not only references to the product and the variation in the tin, but also to the 2 women seated either side of the man. This would resonate with a male audience in particular. Furthermore, the individual words used helps to connote the luxury taste of the chocolate. Adjectives such as delicious and delightful indicate the expensive and high-class taste that the company are aiming for. The layout of the advertisement is split into 3 distinct sections. In the centre third of the advertisement, the main protagonist can be seen sharing the product, the main message behind the campaign. This, combined with the top third of the advertisement, indicates the irresistibility of the chocolates to the demographic. Now, the bottom third of the advertisement, though, is designed to inform the demographic as suggested by Bloomer and Katz's uses and gratifications theory. It includes images of the different types of product which are larger and overlaid over the main image to provide interest, while the logo references the family values of the company. Let me know what you guys think I got for these 2 paragraphs in the comments section below. It's worthwhile mentioning as well that if you are practicing these in class, and I know that there are going to be many teachers out there who feel the same way that I do, if you are doing an exam paper like this in class and you only have lined paper, please tell us which question you are answering. Don't do A, B and C all together, because in your exam paper there are going to be individual sections for you to fill out. 1A, 1B, 1C. Okay, so get into the habit of dealing with them separately. Don't lump them all together. 2A then, explore how social context influences advertising with a random blue arrow. What does it refer to, other than the Quality Street advert? Let's find out. So, if you struggle with context, doing a spider diagram like I'm about to link together is really useful, and I find spider diagrams incredibly helpful. You can do something like this in the margin of your paper. You can do it on the lined space provided, because you do get additional pages at the back if you need them, and it might just help to give you an idea of what you're going to talk about. Now, when it comes to a question like this, I would never jump into the Quality Street advert straight away, okay, because the question isn't explain how the Quality Street advert uses social context. It's social context first, Quality Street as evidence. So, how does social context influence advertising? Well, social context influences advertising because if there's a gender divide in society, there'll be a gender divide in the adverts. And we can see that here. That's our blue arrow for evidence shown by the men and the women. The social norms at the time, whatever period that is, are also going to be shown within a advertisement as well. So that's likely to be included. It's designed to provide a representation of day-to-day life. So whatever we see within an advert is a little bit like what real life was like at the time. And also the level and the divide of the wealth is something that's going to be reflected within an advert. Now again, the mark scheme is very similar to what we've seen before, and again, the only difference between each of those bands is that individual word: minimal, basic, satisfactory, good, and excellent. Okay, and to get into that excellent band, you don't have to do anything overly amazing. You just have to give a detailed and accurate knowledge of social context influence. Okay, now obviously this refers to Pride and magazines, but again you can change those to be about, in this instance, advertising, and highly appropriate reference to Quality Street to support our points. Okay, so let's have a look how I get on here then. Social context influences advertisements as the producers of adverts need to make it relevant to the consumer's day-to-day life in order for it to be successful. One way they do this is by representing the gender division within the images they use. That's how social context influences adverts. Okay, here's my backup. For example, the Quality Street advert shows the male protagonist in control of the tin of chocolates. This is similar to the divide in society, as the patriarchal society meant that men had more power. However, rising feminism can also be seen in the advert, as the women could be using their femininity to gain a chocolate without the man noticing. Another aspect of social context that has a large importance on advertising is the level of disposable income at the time. Okay, so there's another point about social context. Here's my evidence. The Quality Street advert has a high class feel through the use of high key lighting and bright colours, despite the fact that the chocolates were deliberately made available for lower income families, unlike many chocolates at the time. Definitely a detailed and accurate knowledge of social context. Definitely highly appropriate references to Quality Street to support my points. Now, I've not included all of the points from my spider diagram here, so one of the things that you guys can do is you can include those in your own answer, and you can have a go at marking this yourself. All right, question 2B then, it's a big one, okay? This question alone is worth more marks than any other question that you will get across both GCSE papers. So it's really important that we nail this question, okay? Now, since making this original video, I've had advice from other teachers, which I'm going to talk through. So it's really important that you're listening to me and not just reading what's on the screen. 2B is based on the advertisement for Quality Street from the set products and resource A, which you will get given separately, which is the advertisement in this instance for Nike Plus. You have the time in your exam to annotate and to make notes on that advert. So don't waste time by jumping straight in and getting lost in your answer. Jot down some notes, annotate around that resource first before jumping in. Okay, now we need to compare the representation of women in Quality Street and Nike Plus. We need to consider the choices that the producers have made about how to represent women, how far the representation of women is similar, how far the representation of women is different. So I've colour-coded this again because I'm going to do my plan based on this, and I've picked out the keywords of the question as well. In my exam, I would make notes all around that Nike Plus advert, and I will do videos showing you how I would tackle this in real time. But let's make a little plan as we go. Okay, so for women then, all right, men are considered to be more dominant in both of the advertisements. So you can see that blue is my similarities, purple are my differences. Men are dominant in both, okay? The man in the Quality Street advert is controlling the flow of the chocolates. There is only a man in the Nike Plus advert, okay? However, women are subtly showing more dominance, okay? Because one reading of that Quality Street advert could be that the women are using their feminine wiles to get that chocolate. And the fact that men are taking on women, or women are feeling like they can take on men and start to subvert that stereotypical viewpoint of women in sport, is something we can comment on from the Nike Plus advert. However, women represent the product in the Quality Street advert, and we don't have any women in Nike Plus, okay? And we've also got this desirability. Women desire chocolate, but they're not as represented in sport, okay? So that's another thing that we can comment on. Personally, I would make sure that you have at least 3 points on a plan before you start, okay? Really, you need to deal with it equally. It needs to be dealt with in a very similar way to how you would deal with, if any of you are doing AQA English, the way you would deal with your poetry, okay? That it's got to be the same sort of style answer here, okay? Now, the mark scheme is obviously more wordy. Again, it's separated only by those key words: minimal, basic, satisfactory, good, and excellent. Okay, now, in order to get an excellent, I'm going to show you my answer, but then I'm going to tell you what I've been advised by other teachers, okay? Because I'm not sure that my answer is going to get everything within that top band. Okay, so let's have a look. One way in which the two advertisements are similar is the way that they make the female gender submissive when compared to men. In the Quality Street advert, this can be seen through the way that the male protagonist is positioned in the centre to show that he's got more power and is in control. The Nike Plus advert also conveys this ideology, but does so through the fact that there isn't a female protagonist included in the advert at all. The lack of women further emphasises the power of men. This is also represented in the language used in Nike Plus's tagline, "One more thing for men to rule." So you can see how in this initial opening paragraph, and I've not given an introduction, don't need to, jump straight in this initial paragraph, I've dealt with both adverts together, and that's going to be the best way to do this throughout your answer. Whenever you mention one advert, bring the other one in, okay? Another similarity, however, is the fact that despite their submissive representation, women are subtly pushing against and trying to subvert the dominance of the men. In the Quality Street advert, this can be seen through the negotiated reading suggested by Stuart Hall, in which the women may be using their femininity to distract the male protagonist so they can gain a chocolate. The Nike Plus advert also shows this, even though there isn't a female featured in the advert. This can be seen through the persuasive command, "Join the men versus women challenge." This connotes female strength as they are pitted against their male counterparts. There are differences in the advertisements though. For example, the women in Quality Street advert are designed to represent the product. The female on the left is wearing red and green, similar to the strawberry cream beneath her, whereas the female on the right has blonde hair and wears red, similar to the Harrogate toffee. This provides a visual representation of the product as attractive and enticing. Given that there are no women in the Nike Plus advert, they cannot represent the product in this instance. Finally, the common stereotypes of women are played upon in both adverts, but are done so in different ways. For example, women are commonly associated with loving chocolate, which may be why the producers have chosen to feature them in the Quality Street advert. However, women are not generally associated with sport, that should be sport and not spot, and are commonly thought of as unsporting. This could be a reason behind the hypermasculine language, image and representations within the Nike Plus advert. Okay, now I reckon, or I thought that before I sort of got my advice from other teachers out there, that I had definitely given consistent use of the theoretical framework and used terminology throughout. I've definitely detailed appropriate comparisons between the set and the unseen products. And I've definitely given well-reasoned judgments, okay? That's what I thought. But in order to get into the top band for this particular question, you have to give personal comments and you need a final paragraph that sort of summarises what you think. Had I given a final paragraph at the bottom, I would have been able to get into this top band. As it is, I think this answer is certainly on track to get 20 out of the 25 marks, which is pretty decent, but it's one paragraph, one overall, I think, paragraph away from getting into that top band. Okay, so if you take nothing else away from this video, make sure you're aware of the fact that you need that evaluative paragraph at the bottom of your answer to get a decent mark. Okay, these are all the key terms that you are going to need for today's video. Hopefully this was helpful in going through the exam questions for you. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about the exam at all, or any of the things that I've dealt with in today's video, pop them in the comments section below or send me a message at media_revision on Twitter. If you haven't already, subscribe, hit the button down below, and if you hit the little bell icon next to it, you get instant notifications every time I post a new video. I'll see you guys later for the This Girl Can questions.